Thank you very much, everybody. I know it's a little bit evening, and most of you are a little bit tired from the whole day, but we're going to be talking about interoperability. My name is Claudio Cossio. I'm co-founder of Metapool. We're a multi-chain liquid staking protocol. We started over on Near in 2021, and then we move over to EVM and non-EVM support during all this next 3 years of ups and downs. But we got a great panel here. We got folks that are really deep into interoperability, Avalanche being one of them, and then also from Lava Network as well. But our first round of introductions for folks that do not know who you are. Let's start with you, Jair, and then take it from there.
Muchas gracias. No, I'm going to speak in English, don't worry about that. Yeah, my name is Yaya Clipper. It's interesting that we have Lava and Ava Labs, but I don't think it's staged. My background is in computer engineering. I'm a 3 times founder based from Israel. And in the last 4 years, I jumped into a crypto journey together with Lava. What brought me to the space at the beginning was the deep belief that this is the next finance revolution. And then I bumped into trying to build some products for this revolution, like DeFi products. And I seen that I need to run nodes in different chains. Avalanche, Solana, Ethereum, and all of them. I basically, in order to get access, I need to run nodes. It didn't make sense to me then. It was fewer chains than today. Today we are in the proliferation of chains. And that's what brought us to build Lava. It's basically a scalable network for access. Today we've seen what happened with Cloudflare. So I'd love to unpack that, what we do exactly with Lava. Glad to be here.
Thank you very much, Aid. So, care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Greg Labus. I'm the head of licensed gaming over at Ava Labs, obviously an entity of Avalanche, and I focus more on the consumer side of things, but prediction markets, iGaming, casinos, any sort of loot box consumer product. I've been with Avalanche for about 6 months now. Prior to that, I was at Polygon as their head of consumer and head of gaming. Did that for 3 years. Prior to that, Nifty Gateway, peddling NFT art. Then prior to that, I was actually an attorney out in Chicago, but thankfully I was able to escape that and enter this interesting world, and I haven't looked back since. But yeah, with Avalanche, specifically to me, I'm trying to kind of scale out this prediction market as not only a degenerate type tool, but more of a DeFi tool. And I think what a lot of the US CFTC and more traditional finance rails are finally starting to discover is a very, very effective DeFi tool. So that's a little bit of my focus. The focus of Avalanche is to connect capital, right? I think, there's kind of a corny slogan. It's speed of Solana, liquidity of Ethereum, and sovereignty of Cosmos. So, it's kind of a combination of the best.
Well, thank you very much. Is it your first time here in Argentina?
It is, yes.
And for you?
Yes.
Okay, so it's right now the best weather you can find. Hopefully the food.
Jacaranda outside.
Yes, exactly. Jacarandas are there, right? So it's a lovely place. So welcome to Argentina. And so let's start with just defining interoperability, right? I think it's kind of like a buzzword as well, right? It means a lot of things, and for some people it is important, and for other people they want to abstract that as much as they can, right? And I think we have everybody is kind of rooting for interoperability, but sometimes they're also hindering. And I think here it's important for folks to understand from your point of view, Yair, what's interoperability and what is Lava doing in this space, right? In helping the ecosystem as well, which is quite important from my part.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so Greg was actually touch base in a couple of the protocols that we bumped into from the early start. We built Lava on Cosmos SDK, and obviously, it's one of the pioneers, one of the oldest chains out there. And they had one single, basically, goal is that you can create a few clicks, any chain there, an application-specific chain. So when we bumped into the problem of accessing data, accessing reading, write transaction to different chains, we realized that in order to do that, if you're building a wallet, if you are a bridge, if you building a DEX, doesn't matter. You always need to interact in and out with the blockchain, with the different chains. And today, you had, and back then, you had a few options. You can run your own node and start making sure it's synchronizing and part of the chain. You are able to go to amazing providers like Alchemy, QuickNode, Infra. But unfortunately, you never finish by doing so. After you're doing that, you always has to have a load balancer, a backup, a disaster recovery, to make sure that at the end of the day, you get 100% uptime. So this, from the beginning, our goal was kind of to create a decentralized access layer that's giving access to any chain. So it doesn't matter if you started building on Solana and then you want to move to Avalanche. We don't want you to start running your nodes. We don't want you to start thinking about, I have region coverage from different countries, different continents. How do you make sure that once you have an airdrop or you have a user out of Japan, when you have a spike in the demand, how do you give them continuous access? And that was our first goal, to make sure that the user experience is seamless, that projects are focusing on what they actually need to focus, building their products, right? Not moving and using resources to invest on the different resources on the DevOps and maintaining different clouds. That was our goal. I can unpack afterwards, how we are giving access to multi-chain, but I will let also Greg to give his insight.
Yeah, and from my end, I'll attack it a little bit more from the retail front. It's, I think we all came in, well, depending on when you came into this space, it was a bumpy
For the
ride.
money, Greg.
That's right. Well, there's the why and the when, right? But I guess the why is always the same. The when, I think, kind of gives you this unique perspective as to this space, right? It's like how sloppy and how choppy was the process of doing what you want to do across the different chains. Even at, several years ago, there were popular dApps across several protocols and ecosystems. How do I spend less than an hour moving money over and being able to use a dApp on, let's say, a Polygon or an Avalanche when we're coming from an ETH? So it's just, for me, interoperability is this idea of abstracting away any bridge swap features, being able to put everything under the hood while remaining principled in what crypto is, right? Transparency, privacy, autonomy, permissionless entirely, yeah. So that's kind of, for me, what that means. It's being able to do everything without realizing you're getting all those benefits.
Yes. Yeah,
One,
go ahead,
one more
Dave.
thing maybe to add. At the beginning we were looking into subnets on Avalanche and to build with, and I was really excited to see how different L1s are really giving the permissionless access so anyone can develop the application-specific chain. We decided finally to build it on Cosmos, and today we get proposals to go into smart contracts. Obviously, to have an L1, all the validator set, it's pretty heavy maintenance there.
Yeah, no, it's heavy lifting, right? And it's not a small ask, because once you commit to supporting any other chain, any L1, you are committing not only resources, but you need to understand that you're taking another smart contract risk, right? Putting assets or opening up assets to your platform through that, right? And it's not And sometimes when we had that same issue with Metapool, right? It's like, hey, why don't you launch an LST on X, Y? I'm like, well, it's not only about launching, building it is the easy part. Maintaining, support, right? And when the shit hits the fan, well, like they're gonna look into you, right? Because you are supporting that, and like they're gonna knock on your door. They don't care about the L1, right? And I think this is something that when we were discussing interoperability back in 2021, right? And then we realized in 2022, yes, it is a multi-chain world. Like it is gonna be that way, right? And then we started to look into ways, okay, how do we do chain abstraction, right? Multi-party computation, how do we make those work, right? And I think it's taking us a long time. It's like, it's not that easy, right? And folks were like, well, you know, it's like, it shouldn't be a problem. And I'm like, okay, we need to just do a better job. And I think we've, like, places like DevConnect are great, right? Because you get the builders and the people that are using it, but sometimes those conversations don't happen. And people outside think it should work, right? So like it.
But you touch upon the interoperability and the proliferation of different chains. Don't you think that now we're going to see more consolidation in the space? You see basically a lot of sell pressure, different tokens that were launched, 1 year ago. You know where they are today.
And you're right there, Yaya, right? If the chain doesn't serve a purpose, it will go to zero. Like there's no way around it.
I think 2025 is more than ever the year of utility, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If we have no utility and we have no use for the token, like who's going to buy?
Yes, there's this weird dynamic coming from the 2021 DeFi summer and whatnot, right? Where everybody was pushing tokens without really understanding the utility behind it, the interoperability of it, right? Because at the end of the day, and Lido was a perfect example of how they faced this problem. They tried to go multi-chain, right? They went into Near, they went into Solana with their several different partners, and at the end of the day, they say, you know what? Let's just keep it in Ethereum, right? But now that they want to go, and the last panel was really good about TradFi is, okay, you do have to support interoperability if you want traditional finance to interact with your protocol, right? Or with your dApps. And my question here, Jade, is like, how do you look into it, right? Because at the end of the day, interoperability doesn't have, it's not about the end user. Right now, it's about like TradFi, meeting DeFi, and interoperability plays a very important role in this.
So we see what Ilya from Near is doing with intents, right? It's growing in demand and more protocol application using that kind of, blurring who is the network behind, the network behind a frictionless Web3. I see that from a different perspective. We had a very interesting evolution in what we're building in Lava. We started as decentralized alchemy in Fura. I don't think many people in the room care about decentralization, and so are the people outside. We moved on to serve different foundations, Near, Filecoin, Starknet, Movement, Hyperliquid. They came to us and say, basically, we're building a public good, so give us, I want to give you the infrastructure budget instead of giving it to specific providers, and you hold them accountable for the quality of service. The last evolution of that was last year. Fireblocks reached out to us and said, we really like what you're doing with RPC, giving access to any chain, but there is something in the open source that we want you to wrap as a product. We're like, well, what do you mean? What product? We're an open protocol permission. He said, yeah, but this thing is something that we try to develop. A year later, we announced together the smart router, which is basically what everyone who needs enterprise-grade service, he needs to implement that internally. I started with, there's amazing, reputable providers, but end of the day, you don't want to trust a single provider. So you spin up your node. You put the backup.
And vendor locking is a bitch.
Locking, and exactly for foundation, that's also why they came to us and gave us the budget. But what Fireblocks made it super clear is that in a world that we see massive organization, institution going to RWA, tokenization, stables, uptime is not something that you can skip on.
You sign SLAs for those.
SLOs, yeah, SLOs.
SLO, sorry.
But yes, yeah. So they really gave us the push to go out there and take what we've built with amazing providers, Sensei, for example, that running the nodes, building the infrastructure, monetizing their own infrastructure that they're already running, and go and provide that to enterprises. Because Walmart, now when they want to deploy a stablecoin, they don't really care about which network is going to be. I see amazing experiments with Avalanche, actually, with the license plating in California, right? And utility, we started that with utility. It's going to be the main driver to where we're taking that from here.
Greg, you want to?
No, and to add on to that, with Avalanche, I think with a lot of the traditional capital piece coming in, what they're looking for is autonomy over their own block space, and their focus is on making sure that they're regulatory sound, and that's where we offer a lot of services, and that's where a lot of this traditional capital is coming on through their L1 route, right? So that piece is kind of where I view Avalanche as being quite a bit ahead, especially having a product that's ready out of the box right now. So it's
and you see that with games, no? On gaming.
Of course, no. And on the gaming side, we have Off the Grid, which I would argue is the proof of concept of what Web3 gaming could potentially be on that end. Obviously, you still have your frictions, but as abstracted a way as you're going to get from the Web3 side right now. But yeah, it's incredible because they have their own block space as well. Gonzilla, Off the Grid, yeah.
And you think like Polymarket is more like on the gaming front and the gambling front?
I treat gaming all as one, right? I have what's called the...
Of course, anything we say should not be considered financial advice.
Absolutely, not legal advice or financial advice from me. But, I view gaming, and I've always kind of had this thesis of, there's the FNF spectrum, which is fun and finance. In Web3, people really like to stick to the extremes of having a game that's pure finance, which is essentially like a staking protocol or just straight up casino, or the straight fun side, which is just a game where there aren't really any principles of blockchain that transfer through. I think gaming in Web3 actually exists somewhere in the middle, where it's a combination of these two, fun and finance pieces, and it looks a little bit more like, I like to equate it to like daily fantasy sports, right? Where you have that financialization aspect, you have kind of these principles of Web3 that could carry along, and you also actually have entertainment/fun. And this is where, a lot of the space is heading right now, especially along the likes of prediction markets. I think prediction markets themselves are a game to an end.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes what this signals, Jay, is that if they're pissing off some important people in the US, right? That they want to put the pressure in through the regulator. But at the end of the day, this is like, is Milei going to be reelected or not, right? And, well, that's something that is...
Is he?
Well, I don't know. You should tell my co-founder, Lucio, there. He will have a perspective on it.
He doesn't speak in any event this week. Right?
Oh, no. I think he got his lesson learned quite a bit of that.
Because of Melanie, no?
Yeah. So I think the most important part that protocols, ecosystems should play in interoperability is how do you maximize abstraction, right? We still haven't figured out the seed phrase stuff, right? But that's core to this ecosystem. Eventually, it will be a mix where we need to provide the tools to onboard folks that are not financially literate in the crypto space, but at the end of the day, they're using Polymarket right now, right?
Exactly, and I want actually to ask in the audience who today was suffering from Cloudflare downfall.
Yeah, we all got drugged on that one.
Who knew Cloudflare before today?
Oh yeah.
Okay, actually,
we're preaching to the choir here, right?
Okay, that's not the right audience, but you don't help me, but thank you. No, so that's
but
exactly.
There's a single point of failure there, right?
Exactly. So Cloudflare basically is a CDN. Maybe you know them from bots. you're going into different website and they ask you if you're not a bot, and you say, of course, I'm an AI. Why I'm not a bot anymore? So, and that's one of the product of Cloudflare. But the claim to fame will come from the CDN, basically routing the internet traffic. Okay, and it means that when you open your Netflix, Netflix doesn't tell you, oh, come back in 10 minutes, right? Netflix doesn't tell you your favorite series is available like in 30 minutes. Like, it's not happening. Why? Because there is a CDN layer. The Netflix doesn't work with Cloudflare, they work with Alchemy, but it's the same concept. They all the time make sure they're routing the traffic to the most available server that hosting the movie. And most of the people didn't hear about them. It's a huge company, but they usually, today they traffic 20% of the traffic in the internet. Okay, so think how much power is that. We're speaking from crypto. When I joined in, like 60% was in AWS. So it's kind of the same centralization hood. But I think if you look into what Chris Dixon was writing in his book, Read, Write, Own, is that this is the evolution, right? Evolution from internet that is only being able to read pages to the next phase, which your social network. So you write into the places, but the data is aggregated only by a few players there. And we're now in the own phase, right? So part of the being in the own phase is giving people tools that make sure when they swipe the credit cards, it always work. But retailers don't have to pay 0.5%, 1%, 2% to keep those tools running. And yeah, it's going to be super interesting how it's going to unpack, especially with the heavy events that we're having right now.
Yeah, no, and to add to that, right, I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and with the heavier bandwidth going through digitally right now, it's like these outages are going to be a lot more frequent. But the more they happen, I think the more we realize we need a new system. Right now, I don't think crypto itself is fully prepared for it with our TPS limitations on several other pieces. But the evolution is, and the idea is that we far surpass what we currently have in Web 2, right? So it's going to be an interesting and bumpy ride, I think, over the next couple of years, especially with these agentic AI pieces driving the traffic that they do.
Yeah, last year exactly.
Transaction volume is only going to go up, right? We do understand that. But I think we're underestimating the demand for it, right? I think people, they were talking about stablecoins in the last panel, right? And CBDC is being kind of put on hold. But what's going to happen is that there's going to be more stablecoins from other fiat currencies coming in, right? Mexico has a couple of them. There's a couple of them here in Argentina as well for the Argentinian peso. And so this is growing. This is a tidal wave coming in. And the infrastructure, yes, we still have a lot of AWS, right? A lot is in Azure. A lot is in other providers, cloud providers. And I think the decentralization aspect is right now gonna kind of like being put on hold, but then eventually it's gonna be an issue, right? And I believe that we do have the necessary means and the minds and the guts to do it, right? But we'll have to take baby steps into it. And with this question is, like, how do you foresee interoperability really hitting ground speed, right? Right now, you talk about intents, that's one, but that's, I don't know, maybe 3-4 billion, right? But still, that's still peanuts, right? And so how do you foresee this moving forward? And as the demand grows, the interoperability is going to be there so that demand is met, right?
As you said before, AI agents don't sleep, they don't drink coffee, they don't take breaks. At the end of the day, they're running all the time. I think Cizi mentioned by 2025, 2026, like 70% of the transaction going to be AI based. I think we're still far from there, but some people we think that we already have AGI and much more sophistication under the hood that's probably us don't notice. I think abstraction has nothing to do with decentralization. We started as a decentralized as a decentralized provider, not because we are a deep believer in decentralization. It was for the sake of building the right tools, using decentralization for the goal. The goal is access. The goal is not to have little projects spinning up nodes, thinking about this layer, right? RPC, remote procedure call. Who thought about that? But today you need to think about that when you're running a project. So that's why we started. But if you are able to take this, to abstract this piece away, to make sure it's, you know, clickless, it's you have a tool like the smart router that we announced that gives you access to any chain. This will allow more projects to focus on the utility of the things rather than on the infrastructure of the things. Okay, I think Greg mentioned that, you know, developers like to build, but building without the sake of what's the real utility, what's the real users, what's the product market fit, is there's no chance in that, right? So yeah, that's my take.
Greg?
I mean, I ditto to everything that he mentioned there. I think, you know, the interesting piece is, for me, it's like we still haven't even mastered kind of the bridge swap between chains, right? We're very primitive. It's like, I'm shocked because I feel like OpenSea is doing this a very, very effective way. And that might be because they have the distribution rails, right? There are several people that had this solved for much longer, but no one knew where to go, right? So I think until we get like more common sense effective, I think the interoperability piece is always going to be a pain point, whether it's from the infra side or whether it's from the user experience side, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think one of the main issues that we have is that we've been, for the last 3 years, been working in silos, right? And everybody is, Solana wants to be the NASDAQ, whatever, right? And everybody grabs kind of their put the stake in the ground, right? But now I think a lot of the protocols, and it's not the protocols, but the applications themselves, right? They understand that they need to service. If they continue to work the way that they're doing it right now, we're not going to scale as an industry. And interoperability plays an important role there. Now, we're 3 minutes in before we wrap up, but I want to give you the microphone to just, what are some of the predictions coming for 2026 and further down the road? What are you really looking forward to? And what are going to be some of the challenges of that vision that you are executing with your current projects? So, Jair, you want to take it?
I let Greg take the lead.
Okay.
No, sure, yeah. I think going back to the bridge swapping, right? It's like, let's make sure we just don't know what bridging is anymore. Let's make sure retail doesn't know what bridging is anymore. Just let's call it a swap, whether it's cross-chain, whatever it is, right? Let's make that as easy as possible. When it comes to the difficulties and these obstacles, a lot of it is going to be distribution-sided and fee-sided. There's, people right now, OpenSea charges a ton, and they're making a ton off these, bridge swaps themselves. If someone is able to come in and offer a more effective product, like I was using like mixers before, like I was using like Change Now to move pieces across. But now it's just easier to do it even through OpenSea, knowing that I'm paying a higher fee until I actually have to do my accounting and I'm like, okay, I'm never using OpenSea again. So like I said, let's just make it as easy and get rid of everything technical for retail, for individuals like myself. I include myself on this side. I'm only so competent when it comes to the technical end. When it comes to Avalanche itself, I think, we have some interesting chains building on top, whether it's, TradFi pieces, whether it's gaming pieces, whether it's pieces that I can't name right now. Moving across these ecosystems is quite seamless and simple because they share in the infrastructure itself, right? So the idea is, how do we share in the infrastructure and be able to tap in to ecosystems outside of Avalanche? And, I'd love to see where that goes.
My take is that if everyone here in the room knows what RPC is and running nodes, my job is finished, and we are far away from that. I think personally, I'm gonna continue hammering on bringing utility to to our world, to our domain. I'm going to make sure that the infrastructure going to be transparent to you guys, whether you use the wallet and never get an error, whether you're opening the wallet, seeing the account balance, or whether, you know, big custodians like Fireblocks, exchanges like Kraken, or other customers that we're working with, gonna get 100% uptime to every chain they want. I think that we're in an interesting phase. Forget about the 4 years halving, forget about any narrative out there. Focus on the utility. This is the lesson I'm bringing to me.
Well, so we're wrapping this up. Round of applause for our panelists here. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming in. Make sure you pick their brains. They're going to be here for a few more minutes. But anyhow, let's take a group picture. Perfect.